Ready to roll, rock and roll. Casey Miller, here we go. And we're live.
Well, happy Sunday. And this is National Life Coaching Month. My name is Casey Miller, and I'm coming to you from Carefree, Arizona. So I guess we'd say it's North Sweeha. Thank you so much for all of you that have tuned in this week, and very specifically those that have expressed interest today in the topic that we're going to be covering. So National Life Coaching Month is allowing us to coach around things that are very dear and near to our heart, things that maybe we would set as New Year's resolutions, and yet we realize it's more than a resolution, it's an intention. So the topic today is, why am I not writing my book? I'm so excited because as I posted this in the on Facebook, one of our graduates, she calls herself a sweetheart junkie, and that's Amanda Dodd, posted something that just put me into process. And luckily, Amanda has agreed to join with this coaching session today. So first I want to just stop and say thank you to our success coach Becca Briley. She's helping us with this broadcast today so that we are able to actually bring those of you that want to come on and be live with our coaching to be able to come on. So thank you so much for that, Becca. So let me just tell you a little bit about the graduate, the successful practitioner that's going to be joining me today and helping us look at why am I not writing this book. Her name is Amanda Dodd, and she has a business called Healing Beyond Trauma. She's a transpersonal clinical hypnotherapist coach, and I love the way that she describes her practice, where challenges become choices and change. And isn't that a perfect setup for our topic today? Why am I not writing my book? So, Amanda, will you just come on and say hello, and let me just say thank you. And why are you not writing your book? It's so perfect for a way for us to start.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored, and to get to be with you in person for the first time is awesome too. That's so exciting after that Sweeha journey. Why was I not writing my book? Because it wasn't meant to be a book. It was meant to be something else, and I hadn't yet opened to that.
Yes. So today I want to use the acronym DRAGON, and we're going to use it backwards. So one of the things, let's start with, Amanda, is and to notice it wasn't a book. And that was when you said that on Facebook, I'm like, oh, talk more about that. It wasn't a book. You knew that there was something that spirit was guiding you to do, and yet it wasn't a book. Notice that. Talk to us about the N in dragon.
Yeah, so what I was noticing is I'd already procrastinated by a couple of months on getting started. And it wasn't the concept, it wasn't the title, it wasn't so many things that people get caught up on. It was the act of actually sitting and writing. And I thought, okay, well, I'm a hypnotist, I have transcription software. What if I dictated?
Yeah.
And it still wouldn't come.
And it still wouldn't come.
And
Wow.
it still wouldn't come. And at the same time, I'd been asked by clients, by peers of, why aren't you podcasting? And as synchronicity would have it, I got some beautiful pieces of kit that I was not willing to buy because of the cost as a gift. And that was it. It was like, it wants to be a podcast. And the minute I had that opening, it's like, oh, now I'm ready.
Wow, now I'm ready. So what's the name of your podcast?
Is Trauma and Transcendence.
Ooh, Trauma and Transcendence. Wow. And so, like, what's the format of your podcast so that if somebody is out there watching today and they thought it was a book and it's really maybe a podcast, talk to us a little bit about that birth.
Yeah. So my intention is to explore in two ways. One is to bring out my individual personal stories because I know that others will see themselves in it and they'll be able to relate to their own memories and experiences better. And then on the other hand, I'm going to bring on guests to interview so that they can share how that happened for them. You know, where was the spiritual awakening? Was it as the trauma happened? Was it immediately after? And then what did they do with that whole new invitation of, oh, great, now I've got all these gifts that are open. Where do I
Yes.
go?
Yeah. Yeah. So now, have you already started your podcast?
I have not. The last piece of equipment I needed
Oh,
came in the mail yesterday.
oh, how exciting. How
Yeah.
exciting. Yeah. So now you did mention that you thought there might still be a book in you. Talk to us about that.
Well, that's part of the challenge was I was aware of wanting to write multiple books, and it's like, how do I draw that line? Because some of my experiences that I want to share have been through hypnosis and past life regression. I was able to heal some really prominent fears and phobias. And then on the other hand, there's my journey with mediumship, and I want to share that too because I know people will see themselves and then they'll stop doubting that they have these gifts when
Yes.
they understand what it actually looks like without the spin of Hollywood.
Yes. Yes. Well, have you found it to be the case that most people wanting to write a book feel like they have more than one book inside them? Was that your sense?
I think that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then again, I am very dilettante in nature. So it's like, how much of this is me being me, wanting to do all the things in a quick burst, and how much of it is multiple books? But it's
Yes.
like, but then how do I separate? With the podcast, I don't really have to. So that takes that problem off my shelf.
It takes it off the shelf. Okay. Well, let me ask this. If we were to look at perfectionism, was there any part of feeling like you needed to do it perfect that caused you to procrastinate in any way?
Perfectionism and I have been on a journey for a very long time. Uh, we are occasional travel mates until I get tired and I kick it out of the car.
Yeah.
So I have my moments with it. I feel like I'm in a better place with it now. And when I catch myself hesitating, I'm more likely to just throw myself in the deep end.
Wow.
So
That's great.
that's getting better.
So,
Yeah.
as a coach, and I know that that's one of the things that you do really well, coach me for a minute on
Mhm,
procrastination. Let me be the surrogate for all of those that are watching and we do procrastinate
mhm.
because I certainly have been procrastinating. I have two books that are
Okay.
like, I have so much passion around, and yet they haven't fully been born. I don't think that they're a podcast. I'm pretty sure they're a book. So, coach me, Amanda, around my procrastination or anybody's procrastination.
What an honor. Thank you. When you think about these beautiful projects in your heart, does one feel closer than the other?
Oh, how interesting. They both feel like right here. It feels like
Okay.
I have to do them. I must do them. That spirit wants them out this year. They're different markets, and yet when I like sense them, they are like right up close. So I even when I muscle test, which is more important? Well, okay, thank you. Thank you. I was just muscle testing. The one that's the most important is called the Tao of Toe Reading.
Mhm.
It's an extension of a work I've done for a long time. Oh, thank you for that, coach. For me, a lot of times I'll have to muscle test because my head gets in the way my body always knows. So yes, okay. So one is more important. What's the next question? I'm ready to be coached
So
by
now that we've muscle tested, we've got that more body
yeah.
awareness. Where do you begin? What's the first step?
Yeah, I am so incredibly visual. What I find is the way that I best create is actually in PowerPoint, where I have my cover, and then for me, what has been coming is I need to go ahead and put the chapters in, so that that's an action step that I take forward. So that is certainly a piece. That's
Mm,
certainly a piece of it.
okay.
Um,
And
yeah,
have you begun that process yet of making the PowerPoint?
I have the first page done.
You do? Okay.
that's,
Okay.
that's a good thing.
I
Yeah,
know that you're visual. So do you see yourself creating the next step, which I heard you say chapters? You like to list out your
yeah,
chapters.
yeah. You know that my sense is that that's why this is such an important podcast for
Yeah.
me, or important live today. I'm living this, and I always know if I'm living it, somebody else is doing it. So I've actually set the afternoon aside because I was hoping I would get an assignment, I'd get a clarity, and that is really the next piece. My O in Dragon is to be open to non-perfection. I don't know how many of that other people relate to that, but just the fact that I don't know what that darn thing is. You were saying that you just kick it out of the car. Like how do you kick perfectionism out the
Yeah.
car? Because
Mhm.
perfectionism to me is synonymous with procrastination.
Yeah. For me, that looks like an inner conversation of, okay, perfectionism, you're here. Clearly, you feel I need saved or protected from something. What
Ooh,
is that?
ooh,
And
gosh, that gave me
sure,
goosebumps.
sure, that might have been
Ooh,
really scary when I was a little girl, but I'm 40 years old now.
yeah,
Okay, I've got this. And realizing that I don't need protected. And oh, what's the worst that's going to happen? I
yeah,
laugh at a mistake I made, I learned, and I grew.
yeah.
Okay.
Wow, I love that. What is it keeping me safe from? And did I hear you say we need to talk to that little girl inside?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. We have a fan that's online with us, Amanda. Her name is Paula, and she is
Mhm.
saying that perfectionism is the destroyer of dreams. And,
Yes.
and it is. It is definitely one that keeps us small. I definitely agree with that. Yeah. So there was another person that posted something on the Facebook that I thought was so interesting, and that was that maybe we're we need to surrender to the higher, greater author. That
Yeah.
we surrender to God or a universe spirit. My word is Gus. How do you feel about that when you are doing something in your world, whether it's writing or now it's doing this podcast? How much of your success has been surrendering to the higher source?
I consider surrender to be the big guns. Those are the I'm on my knees having a come to Jesus moment. If I'm needing to surrender, I feel like it's because I've done and put in all that I could, and I forgot to leave space for God. There's a beautiful acronym, which I know you are the queen of, ego,
Yeah,
edging God out. And it's
yeah,
like, oh, did I forget that I'm co creating? Let me stop now and invite that in. So for
yeah,
me, I feel like it's more on the tail end. I like to engage with it in the beginning,
yeah.
but then I want to go to work and do my part first because I want to be an excellent co creator.
Yeah. Wow. I got to tell you, my eyes are full. My body is like, I am, every part of my body is resonating with you. And I hope those that are listening right with us now, or those that'll come back and watch this. Oh my gosh. So you just said that it's almost like you're wanting to row the boat and then give it up.
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah.
I do my part.
Do my part.
I do my part. Yes.
That is really, really, really big. So when you think in terms of what has been effective for you, if we were
Mhm.
to use A for allow or action, what is it for you? Would you give us as coaching? Is it that
Right.
we allow, or is it the action?
It is a blend of both for me. So when you were talking about visualizing your chapters and getting them down, the question I was wondering about is, would your action then be chunking down even smaller?
Oh, tell me about that.
Yeah.
Oh,
So because when I think of coming up with all my chapters, I feel a wave of terror and overwhelm.
okay.
But
Okay.
for you, that sounds like it works. And so I'm wondering, like, how do you know what your chapters are ahead of time? So the action would be to explore that, to sit with them, I'm imagining. What does it look like
Yeah.
when you do that?
Well, for me, because I'm very specific, I know that the Tao of Toe reading is going to be a Taoism, as well as then I need to cover the competencies that we want to use in teaching toe reading, both here in, well, I would say here in Tempe and in Tokyo. So
Yeah.
that's where there are some specific things. So I think about
Okay.
that. the other piece of work, ooh, I'm going to say it out loud. That might make me accountable. Can I just tell you, Amanda, I feel so honored to be being coached by you. Here, I thought you were coming on, and really it's all about me getting clear and getting coached by you. And what I know is anytime someone watches a coaching session, they get coached as well. So I hope those that are watching feel coached. So the second book that I'm pretty clear about is called Return to Sanity. And it is around my absolute love for the Yoga Sutras. What I believe about the sutras is that they are a modern day way of coming back into sanity. And the way that this whole title came to me was I was coaching a client and I had just finished reading Marianne Williamson's book, Return to Love. That's like 25 years ago, right? And so I was coaching with the client and she was telling me about how it was crazy that she was a mom. She had many children. I want to say like 5 or 6 children. And her husband had just decided that he didn't want to be a part of their lives anymore. And she goes, it was insane. It was just absolutely insane. And she's telling me that she doesn't want to get so angry with him that she affects her children. So I said to her, well, is it that you want to return to love? And she goes, no, Casey, I just want to return to sanity. And right there, that was the beginning of clarity for me, that the part of what the Yoga Sutras, even the Course in Miracles are, it's bringing us back to sanity. So that's why I believe it's this book called Return to Sanity. And the chapters, I don't think there are as many as there are sutras. There's 196 sutras. I don't think there's that many, but I do think there's a midway in between. So when I think about the chapters, I'm thinking maybe 108. That feels like a good yogic word.
So looking at the model of dragon and going with the A, knowing that those two have potentially slightly different needs, although it sounds like you really do come from a framework. Do you hear that framework? When you talk about it, I don't have that framework. So I love hearing that from you.
That is an interesting thing. Thank you for framework. Of the longest time, I would hide behind this way my brain is. And I truly am, I have a dyslexic quality. I'm not going to say I am dyslexic, but I have a dyslexic quality. And so that was a place that I always hid behind until I realized, no, dyslexia allows me to see it differently. And so acronyms are what align me, because without that, I fly all over the place. I can be this expressive Leo. An acronym puts me in a place where I become linear rather than this gigantic horizon of chaos. So that's what acronyms are. And someone can give me a word and I will just immediately, my brain goes, and it keeps me on focus. So it is a framework. I hadn't thought of it before, but it is a framework. Yeah.
Is there an acronym for your first book, your book on toe reading?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, yes, of course there is. So I can have that. So let me just turn it around and say, do acronyms or framework work for you? Is that something that would assist you in any way?
No.
No. Okay.
No. So I was diagnosed with the label attention deficit disorder, and I never fully embraced it because what I believed happened was there was possible misdiagnosis of trauma, and I was so young that they couldn't identify that.
Yes.
But now, as I'm trying to put things into order and into structure, I'm finding that there's part of me that has a little rebellion. So when framework comes up, it's like, no. And that's when I do surrender more, because it's like, I know all of this is within me. I'm going to allow it to just show up, because every time I've done that, I get results that even I couldn't have estimated. So surrender does play for me in that big role too. And I suspect it will with everything, whether I'm teaching, I'm coaching, or podcasting.
Right. It's so interesting because I've been very involved with what we call trauma informed yoga. And
Mhm.
one of the things that has become very, very clear is that part of what yoga needs to do is let go of the structure
Yeah.
and allow for freedom. I remember the first time I heard, could you imagine teaching a class where you're cueing and there's someone that is doing their own thing? And could you not get crazy over that? And I was sitting with a couple of other teachers, and several people began to shake. It's like, what do you mean I'm queuing and somebody's going to be doing their own thing?
Yeah.
And yet the teacher was saying that the most trauma informed thing we can do is not structure people, not expect them to look a certain way. So
Right.
wow, it's almost like for some things structure would be the way, and yet for others it would be playing into their trauma.
Doesn't that come back to the A though? Because there was the action, and I'm rather so where you need action, I need to just allow.
Yeah. So then that would be Karen Grant, who's already written her first book. I want to say congratulations, Karen, on that. She's saying that framework is a big aha for her. So maybe we are the yin and yang, Amanda. There is a framework that can keep us between the lines, and yet maybe
Yeah.
the lines are exactly what we can get out of.
Yeah.
I just love the work that you're doing, because what I'm realizing now is so much of trauma is incorrectly diagnosed.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest joy I have in my life is working with young people where they have been underloved or under supported all their life and were given a diagnosis, when really the diagnosis was that they were underloved and under supported, and that it all comes under that label of trauma.
Absolutely. And the ways that it then informs how they go out into the world and
Yeah.
engage with it.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, well, let's get down that tangent. But all right. So the R in dragon is ready or not. What do you think about that? I mean, do we push
Yes.
ourselves like I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready? Or do we just give ourselves permission to not be ready?
I feel like it's a dance. You
Yeah.
talked about yin and yang. It's that flow back and forth. And it's like, okay, if I'm not ready to do B and C, am I ready to do A?
Yeah.
Is A too much? Do I need to chunk down? Do I need to make it into smaller pieces? Where do I feel ready? So the other day, I wasn't ready to make my description,
Oh,
but I was ready to make my artwork. Okay, I'll
oh.
go with what I'm ready to do.
Yes. I'll go with what I'm ready to do. Yeah. Yes, I remember very specifically working with a client, and we were going to do some auricular therapy before a hypnotherapy session. And so we went up to one of the points, and the question was, "Are you ready to do this work?" And she took a deep breath and she goes, "No, no." So I said, "Well, then that's the session. If you're not ready, just allow yourself not to be ready.
Yeah.
Are you ready? So ready or not, or maybe ready to do that next thing." Yeah, definitely.
So
Yeah.
for your book, what are you ready to do?
Well, I'm definitely ready. And I just thank you so much for driving me into my muscle testing. I know that I need to move forward on the Tao of Toe reading first. The other is a really deep piece of work. Recently wrote to myself, what if I never do publish Return to Sanity? And it's just that I record it and get it on paper, just to acknowledge that spirit showed up with me every day. There was a time that I was doing a morning uh, exploration on Facebook group about the Yoga Sutras. And every single day I woke up, I read a sutra, and I put it on Facebook. And some of the things I go back and read, and I'm like, who wrote that? I certainly didn't. It was spirit. And so I have given myself permission, is if I never publish it, that I still would get it on paper, so that if Facebook ever goes away and I couldn't get that information back, that I would be able to honor the fact that spirit did download to me and trusted me with it, maybe if it was only for that one application. Although well, I don't even know.
When you write and engage in bringing that to life, are you tactile? Do you need to have pen to paper, or can you type it, or can you dictate it? What does that look like for you?
Oh, I don't have to handwrite it. Absolutely not.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
where I do my best creation are on the notes of my iPhone. Like my blogs are written on the notes of the iPhone. Most of the things that I write are written on the blogs of my iPad. So I just want to acknowledge that, Paula, you're saying that you imagine yourself permission not to move forward, but dive in when I'm excited. Oh my gosh. Yes, yes, absolutely dive in. Because to me, that's the
Yeah.
D in dragon. Like, what is our deepest desire? What is it that yes, we're dreaming of it, but it feels like sometimes dream and desire are two separate things. What would
Yeah.
you say about that, Amanda, when you hear dream and desire? Are they the same or
Yeah.
different?
Well, no, they're very different, but for me, neither is going to be anything without that A, without that action, without
Without the action.
that movement, yeah,
Yeah,
and maybe some discipline.
yeah. So I just happened to notice that your eyes, when you were saying dream
Oh,
and
yeah.
desire, eyes went upward. I can't remember what that means. You know what that?
I'm
What is
accessing.
accessing?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I'm accessing something greater than myself.
Yeah,
I'm checking in with source to see what they want me to know so that I can share.
yeah. Oh my gosh, I felt like the air conditioning came on. The goosebumps. Yeah. So you were accessing that
Mhm.
greater place. And my guess is those that are watching right now, or those that will watch this, there is a piece about dream and desire, and it all goes back to that. You were saying it goes back to that action piece and allow
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. The other thing about dream and desire that as you were speaking kind of came up for me is I feel like sometimes we don't allow ourselves to dream. So I wonder if desire
Ooh,
doesn't come first to plant that seed.
wow, we
Yeah.
will definitely, I agree with that. We don't always allow ourselves to dream. It's that yeah, but yeah, but yeah, but yes, and
Yeah.
yeah, see,
So
I hear
desire feels a little
that.
safer, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So Karen Grant is saying my book might be a class first. Oh, absolutely. Isn't that is so true. When we go back to notice what it is, it could very definitely be that it could be a class first and then it's a book. Very definitely. The idea sometimes for me, I find I love to create little workbooks that go along with the class that I'm going to teach. Now, have you begun to offer classes as well?
Yes. Actually, when I dialed into Akashic Records, I didn't have any interest in doing it as a book, but I became aware that I needed to bring it through as a class. Now, what that offers Karen is a really cool opportunity because as you do those classes, then you're going to have student experiences and witness their learning and hold that space. And then that could actually be part of the book of as we were doing this, here's things you may encounter. How awesome
Yeah.
is that?
How awesome is that? Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. So when I take a really deep breath and we think about just noticing what is, hopefully we'll come to what is it, and that we'll leave this podcast or this Facebook Live. Is it a book? Is it a workbook? Is it a class? Is it just noticing what
Yeah.
it is? Let's see, Shelley. I'm now thinking mine might be a podcast
Yes.
first. Oh, the possibilities. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Shelley. And I hope that you'll make sure that you follow Amanda so that you can see what's happening with her podcast. Just very recently, I had a chance to be on James Patrick's podcast. He is one of the success coaches and the director of development at Sweeha. And he had a guest that didn't show up. And so I said, I'm ready to do a podcast. I didn't realize how easy they were. So
Yes.
yes, Shelley, it could be that. And yes, Shelley, you may want to connect with Amanda and be a guest, and then she be a guest back on your podcast. That's what I just love about this. Now, what is your platform going to be, Amanda? Is it going to be Spotify, or where are you going?
Yeah. Currently Spotify, but I'm just beginning, so I'm still asking a lot of questions of, oh, is this going to be a video podcast? Is this going to be purely audio? Am
Oh,
I going to do both and have little things that wax and wane in between? So absolutely
wow.
Spotify, it's already there.
Yeah,
I haven't uploaded any episodes yet. A trailer is coming this week. I will be accountable. You heard it here first.
absolutely. Absolutely. And so do you have
Yeah.
your guest list or your set up?
Actually, people are so much more ready than I was anticipating they would be. I'm creating a form currently so that I
Yeah.
can have that structure that I typically don't love that will let me know all of their information, all of their details. If they have something wonderful to share, their biopic, I'm going to create a great big form to keep some
Yeah.
structure in there for myself.
Yeah.
That's my next step. And then later getting it out all over the place for everyone who wants to explore these topics. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, one of the people that has been watching us, her name is Paula, and she is also someone that is very involved with the trauma world. In fact, she just put a comment on here. So that the two of you should definitely connect. Shelly says she's going to go in and follow you. And part of that is exactly how
Yeah.
we build our practices, our following. It's like, I'll follow you, you follow me, I'll be on your podcast, you be on my podcast, you review my book, I'll review your book. We can't do this in a vacuum.
No.
The way that people get 1 million followers is one follower at a time or one reader at a time. So yeah, that's super, super, super exciting. So if we go back and summarize, let me just tell you, I could spend the afternoon with you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I absolutely could. The dragon backwards is notice. Notice what it is. Is it a book? Is it a podcast? Is it a workbook? What is it? That we're going to be open to not being a perfectionist, open to being perfectly aligned, whatever it is, that we're going to give it to God, give it to Gus, whatever that happens to look like. And then, oh my gosh, dance between the allow and the action, the allow and the action. And then maybe we're ready or not, allowing that to be okay and not a place to beat ourselves up about. And then, wow, allowing ourselves to have the desire to dream and just to do it. So, whew.
Mm-hmm.
Amanda, what's your big takeaway from this today?
I feel like my biggest takeaway is if you have the desire, that's your permission. That's your green light. Something
Yeah.
bigger than you wants you to do this. And it
Yeah,
planted that seed and trust and allow for that. Yeah.
absolutely. One of my favorite quotes that I would love to be quoted for is, if you get the desire or if you get the dream, you also get permission. Like that like nobody, you wouldn't get it if Gus didn't want you to have it. So the very fact that you get it is the permission, and we can just go for it. Rather than say, who am I?
Yeah.
It's, oh, I am the one that was chosen. That's what I just love. It's not the qualified that are chosen, it's the willing. I've said that. That's a big part of my story. If you really got technical, am I qualified to do everything that I've done? I've been willing, so that therefore makes me qualified. Yeah. Well, oh my gosh, I'm full. I'm leaving absolutely full with dreams and desires, and completely honored that we were able to co-create and co-coach today. I think that's as good as it gets. So when you're ready for your first podcast, you've got to let all of us know, because you already have a fan club. Do you hear that?
A little bit. It's surprising, actually. Because so when I first announced it, I didn't expect anyone to respond. And all of a sudden there's a big response. And it's like, ooh, my next step has to be to create my launch date.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. That is exactly it. Shelly, who's also a graduate, Paula, myself, the others that are watching, Karen, she says, I've been sitting in willing, am I qualified this whole time?
Yes.
You are qualified, Karen, that
Yeah.
God wouldn't give you the ideas if you weren't qualified. The only thing that disqualifies us is us. We're the only ones that says that. So, oh my gosh. Launching soon, says Paula. I think Amanda's launching soon. I'm launching soon. I hope all of you that have been watching are launching soon. Yeah. Wow. I'm going to take a really deep breath and be filled with full. I just feel really honored that you showed up the way that you do and that we will all be a part of your launch team.
Thank you so much. The support from Sweeha is unending.
Oh, well, that's the goal. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Becca, thank you so much for allowing us to use StreamYard so that we could be face to face. And whatever you need to do to finish this off, I guess that's what we'll do. So blessings. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.